Lake Erie is actually the most significant natural resource that Ohio has. There's obviously a lot of tourism dollars and a lot of jobs that are associated with Lake Erie. But if you've ever looked and been and sailed and boated on Lake Erie, it is a beautiful natural resource that many folks throughout the country enjoy. But we need to make sure we keep it vibrant. Yeah, my name is Matt Fisher. I'm Vice President of Lake Erie Foundation, and I actually grew up racing sailboats on Lake Erie, so I have a passion for the lake. Lake Erie Foundation supports H2 Ohio, and we appreciate all the farmers who have signed up for the H2 Ohio practices over the last 3 years. So the objective of the phosphorus filter project is to locate the fields that are higher in phosphorus, install these filters at the edge of fields. Our hope is several-fold. We want to show that first we can find these fields and keep that information confidential. We also want to show that these filters will be able to capture a significant amount of phosphorus and do so in an economically efficient way that can be utilized on fields throughout Ohio. Ohio Department of Agriculture is also working on a very similar project, and we are anticipating that the learnings from the one that we're working on here will be transferred to ODA's project, making use of this technology easily transferred so we can also ultimately help reduce phosphorus in Lake Erie. The problem we're trying to solve with these phosphorus filters is really twofold. We want to be able to locate the fields that are higher phosphorus than others in that area. And these are sometimes referred to as legacy fields. They might have been had phosphorus added to them over the last 25 years. The second part of this is we really want to install these filters at what we'd call the edge of field between, let's just say 60 or 80 acres and a creek that these fields run into. And it really does not reduce any of the yield that a farmer has to have. They don't have to actually preserve any land or implement any practices that might be taking away from their day or their efficiency or their farmland.
So these phosphorus filters work by capturing the drainage runoff from fields. So we're particularly interested in drainage runoff or subsurface runoff because that's where the majority of phosphorus leaves agricultural fields in Northwest Ohio. So for this particular filter and all the filters we're designing, we capture the tile runoff existing that's going through this water management structure and out to the ditch behind me. We capture that with the T and direct it into the phosphorus filter here. The water flows across the top of the media that will be put in the phosphorus filter this afternoon, then drains down through the media. The media consists of iron filings and then a layer of algal, which is the white material you see at the bottom of the filter right now. The iron filings and algal will remove the phosphorus as it flows downward through the media. Then the water will be collected in the collection pipe you can see at the end of the filter there. The water will then flow up through the well and out to the ditch. So the basic way these work by capturing the drainage runoff from the field, directing that runoff through media that absorbs the phosphorus, and then the water without the phosphorus flows out into the ditch. One of the things that's ideal about this technology of phosphorus filters is that they are scalable. So we can make the phosphorus filters bigger or smaller depending on the size of the field, the amount of runoff, and the amount of phosphorus coming out of a farm field or another water source to have them reduce more or less phosphorus as needed. So we can make smaller filters or bigger filters as needed to reduce more or less phosphorus.
The H2 Ohio practices are primarily dealing with application, meaning what practices the farmer uses on a day-to-day basis to plant and maintain and fertilize their crops. Addressing legacy fields or high phosphorus fields is not part of H2 Ohio, and these filters are able to be set at the edge of field to address these high phosphorus fields, whereas H2 Ohio really doesn't do that. One of the most straightforward ways that we're going to be able to determine success is by measuring the amount of phosphorus that's in the water that's drained into the P filter and compared to the amount of phosphorus that's in the water when it drains out of the filter. So we're going to be able to tell within several months how effective these phosphorus filters are. Lake Erie Foundation actually is optimistic that we can solve this issue, meaning that we can reduce the amount of phosphorus that flows into the Maumee that ultimately ends up creating algal blooms in the western basin of Lake Erie. We need to preserve this incredible natural resource that generates tourism dollars generates recreation dollars for the state of Ohio. The problem is solvable, and we need to make sure we have a good long-term plan that we stick with over the years. This won't be resolved in 1 year, but if we have a good 8 to 10 year plan, we will resolve this issue.